Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University. With undergraduate and graduate programs, part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. St. Louis is getting ready for the St. Louis Fringe Festival. It's the second year for the 10-day event that puts a number of eclectic productions at several venues in and around Grand Center. It all starts on the 15th. And with me to talk about this year's festival and its events are Matthew Kerns, Executive Director of the St. Louis Fringe Festival. Madelyn Boyne is an actress in the show Perennial Growth. Omega Jones is an actor in The Gringo, which is a Fringe Festival headliner. Thank you all so much for being with us. Great to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Matthew, let me begin with you. This Fringe thing is really becoming sort of a movement, isn't it? How come and why?
7 years we've been around.
7 years.
7 years, and we have been now unleashing voices of independent artists that range into the hundreds. So the movement, I think, is so important because we're celebrating freedom of expression and freedom of speech and giving a stage over to people who are making independent art across the land.
Across the land. That was the point I was getting at, that is happening all over the place.
It is. They happen all over the place. St. Louis Fringe is part of the North American Fringe Network. So we see our local artists come to our Fringe Festival, and we see artists from other fringes around the country come to us as well.
Madelyn, how important is this concept to actors and actresses?
Well, I think Fringe Fest is really a huge opportunity for people who are in smaller companies or maybe don't have companies at all to get their art out. I know for us at Whale of the People, we just created a company and applied to Fringe and hoped they would accept us, and now we get to create art when we wouldn't have had an opportunity otherwise. We want to talk more specifically about what you're doing at the festival this year. It sounds very, very interesting. Yes.
Omega, how about you?
I 100% agree. I think it's a way for people to have an opportunity that they might not normally have, because with other companies in the St. Louis area, or not just St. Louis, but in general, you might not get a chance to do your own art or express yourself in ways that's not as conventional as a normal musical theater show or a straight play is. You can kind of do whatever you want, and it's still art. It's just not, what people would see like as mainstream. So Fringe is a place for people to do that, and that's why it's very important.
Matthew, give me some sense of the variety that's going to be involved this year.
I mean, the variety is through the roof. So our late night headline act this year is celebrating our drag queen community because it's the golden age of drag. And Desires Decline has created a show called As We Stumble Along. It's an improvised Broadway musical review. We also have a show about Jackson Pollock called, it's by Matthew Markham from The Unconventional Empire, and it's called Pollock, A Frequency Parable. So it's a soundscape on top of video work of Jackson Pollock. And we also have a new play by Clayton Smith called The Depths. So it really does run the gamut.
And for people of all ages.
Of all ages. We also have a family day, and we have some great family shows.
What kinds of things do you have for the youngsters in particular?
Debut Theater Company is bringing a show specifically for the kids. And we have a Fringe Family Day where Compass Improv is coming in, and they're going to teach kids improv class. And then they're all going to do a performance with the kids of their improv work.
Madelyn, let's get back to what you're going to be doing in Perennial Growth. I mean, this is something very different. No dialogue to begin with, which is quite unusual.
Yeah, so this show was composed by my brother, actually, Augie Boyne. He has a BA in music performance, and he's had this idea knocking around in his head. And
knocking around in his head.
Yeah. So it took a push for me to say, well, I can do all the theater stuff, just apply to Fringe.
Yeah.
And so it's a show about a plant that was created by scientists to solve the climate change crisis, and the plant overtakes people and eventually other plants and animals and becomes sentient. So it's kind of a wild concept, and it's completely music-driven. Augie has written the score, and we're going to have a live band playing it every night. And all of the choreography is devised in our rehearsal room by our amazing ensemble of actors.
Where did this come from? How did your brother come up with this kind of concept format?
He's a musician primarily. He doesn't do theater, which is why he wasn't thinking of applying to Fringe. So this is just one of the ideas that he's like, I would really like to do this, to tell this story, and I don't know how to tell stories other than to write music. And I said, well, I can do theater stuff. I'll do that part. And, he's just an interesting, creative, and kind of off-the-wall fellow. And so this is the first of what we're hoping are many Wail of the People performances.
And this is one of the values of the festival, is the fact that you can experiment like this. And it's a place where you can try things like this.
Yes. Like I said, we are a new company, and there is no way we would have the funds to rent a theater and pay a crew and all of the things required to create a production otherwise. So we're really grateful to Fringe for the team they've put together to facilitate this for us.
Let's talk a little bit about the Gringo. What makes this different?
I don't think it's necessarily different. I will say we're probably one of the few straightforward pieces that are in Fringe. But it's just a powerful piece in the sense that it talks about things that most productions and most shows don't want to talk about because they're too real, they're too scared to talk about it. Talks about racial justification and police brutality and things of that nature. The show's about it encompasses many things, but it focuses on a white guy who comes into the area of Overtown in Miami. And he meets a successful artist who loves her art and who does what she can to just survive. Her lover, who has had a tragedy strike him. I won't say what that is because you'll have to see the show.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. A drug dealer and his little lackey. They're kind of like the Timon and Pumbaa of the show. They kind of have the comic relief, but they're very, very, very real in the things that happen with them. And it's all through their eyes and his white gringo eyes, which is where the gringo comes from. And it's just, it's something that I haven't had the chance to be able to do before. Because again, just most shows don't talk about these things and they don't talk about them in the depth that they deserve.
Matthew, when you're deciding what to do in a given year, do you look for things like this, things that have a social component, social justice, racism, the kind of things that we talk about a lot on this program and in this community?
We do. So me and my team are always searching for what is happening in the news, what's happening in our world, and how we can find art makers that are making work that's relevant. And the festival is tiered, so we have 3 headline acts. We have invited artists who we know they're making a specific piece of work, and everybody else comes out of a fishbowl, so we have no idea what they're bringing when we pull it out.
How does the process work of making these decisions as to whom you'll use?
So we have a team across the country that looks for national acts, and we read lots of scripts, and we talk to producers, and we finally find the one that we feel is the right fit for St. Louis for the time and for the work that's coming to help them on their journey. And then we start putting together from there. So a local headline act is always easy for me because our talented artist community is always showing such amazing work. And when I see somebody like Colin Healy of Fly North Music, who wrote The Gringo, I know that person needs a stage because his voice is unlike anything else I've seen.
Are most of the people who perform here local?
Most of the people who perform here are local, and most of the authors are local, too, of the work. So the producers are also local, giving opportunity and giving voice to people who, like Madelyn said, might not have it anywhere else.
Madelyn, you mentioned that you're hopeful that the production of yours will go on. Where would it likely go? I mean, where do you go from a place like St. Louis and the Fringe Festival?
Well, for us, both my brother, myself, and our movement director, Landon Dvorak, are all St. Louis-based. So we are planning actually to stay in St. Louis and just take this show to different venues, assuming, of course, people come to Perennial Growth at Fringe. So we want to take this art into St. Louis because I think it's different than a lot of things you're seeing in the theater community, and it branches the theater and music communities that oftentimes are very separate. So we have this show, we have 2 other shows that are not yet in the works, but on our list of things to do in the future.
You think St. Louis is a good place to experiment?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There are a lot of really engaging artists who are willing to take risks in this city.
Yeah. Omega, what about the Gringo? Is this something that has legs, can go well beyond the Grand Center venue?
Honestly, without a doubt, I do believe this has the potential to go far. Kyle's been working on this thing for years. Luckily, I stepped in January 2017. Wow. 17 in my role. And just from the year that has been, it has grown so much. And I think with this production, we're going to be able to take it even farther, perhaps. I mean, everybody says, I want to go to Broadway, but, I think it really can go, like, way past what St. Louis is. It's just, it needs to go that far,
How do you do that? I mean, how do you set it up so that you can go someplace else and perform this?
Well, hopefully you have a good product, because at the end of the day, you have to have something that people want to see. But, you make sure that people know about it. That's why I think Fringe is so important, because it's a way for people to find out about things that normally would never be seen. So once people come see Fringe, which, they will, because that's what we want.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Once people come see the Fringe show, they go, oh, I want to be a part of this. Oh, I want to see this go somewhere. And just from there, it's just steps upon steps upon steps. So
you get on the phone and call different cities and different venues across the country?
I wish I could tell you how much Colin has done for the show. Like, I physically could not be that one to say that. Colin has done so much outreach. He's done the research. He actually went down to Miami to make sure he knew what he was talking about. I think he lived there for a while, actually. And you have to do the necessary steps to get your vision to the masses. So, and I think he has done that.
You've got to market your product is basically what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Matthew, are you approached a lot from various parts of the country for representation?
We are approached all the time. And what makes me happy is that because of our relationships around the country, we are able to help people like the Gringo, shows like the Gringo, and folks like Colin move it to the next place and make sure that it does have a life. I've already gotten at least no less than 20 emails about when do I apply for next year. And we haven't even opened this year yet.
Right. The past has produced, I'm sure, some excellent presentations. Have any of them gone on and become really big outside of St. Louis once they performed here? Any performers or any particular productions?
I would say one of them that I can mention that I'm particularly proud of that came out of Fringe is Elizabeth Townsend's piece about Patty Pruitt. So the life and times of Patty Pruitt really was a solo show that she created to talk about Patty's wrongful incarceration. And it had such a draw at the festival. And then beyond, it's now part of a touring series at the Missouri Arts Council, so it can be booked anywhere in the state in order to for people to come and see it and hear Patty's story.
What about mixed media as part of what you're doing this year?
There's lots of mixed media. We have a visual artist this year who has, our mascot is the flamingo, or we like to call him the Framingo. And the Framingo this year, all of the artwork is made by this artist, Mark Register, and he has made a piece of video art along with it, along with the print material that will play at the festival and around Grand Center on various walls and places. So you'll see some mixed media happening as well.
How important is this event to Grand Center?
I feel like this event is important to Grand Center and St. Louis at large because, like these folks have said, you're getting a taste of the next wave of the next generation of art, and you're also getting an opportunity for people who you might just know as your neighbor or your coworker to suddenly see them in their art form and how they think creatively and express themselves that way. This festival is so important to our St. Louis area and our region.
Madelyn, it has to be very exciting for a performer to get involved in this kind of an environment.
Yes, I am actually not a performer this year. I'm the managing director of Wail of the People, but I have performed in the 2 previous Fringes. I do know that our acting ensemble, everyone involved, actually, the band, the actors are all really excited for this project. Everyone is 100% in. We are always collaborating and throwing new ideas out, and we listen to everything. And it really just helps us create a better project. And I think that's part of what Fringe is about, is giving a voice to people who generally don't have one because they are not the artistic director of a company, or they're not, a well-known director or a well-known actor.
Omega, you're buying into that. I can tell just by the way you're reacting.
Yeah. I think she's hit it on the nail. It's so important, and it's so we're thankful for the opportunity because, again, we never get this chance to do things that people aren't, a lot of people don't want to see something they're unsure of. So if we have the opportunity to showcase these stories in a way that people want, are interested in, they're going to come see it. So that's why Fringe is just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's just it's so necessary. That's all I can say. It's really necessary. So,
Matthew, what's the most out there thing you're doing this year?
Oh, golly. I think probably the most out there thing we're doing this year, I'm like going through the list of them in my brain. I think that Pollock is actually probably the most out there. It's a soundscape, so that means he's using primal sounding with his voice over some lyrics that he's written with video of Jackson Pollock painting in the background. I mean, it's totally wild, but it's worth it.
Well, it's all starting just a few days from now,
Yes.
a week from today, I guess.
A week from today is our big night at our big opening night under the big top.
All right, and it'll be running for 10 days at various venues, as you've indicated. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Matthew Kerns. Good luck. Break a leg, as they say, in show business. I think that's what they say. Madelyn
right.
Boyne and Omega Jones, thank you. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a great time. Archive versions of past St. Louis On the Air programs available for download or podcast at stlpublicradio.org/STL On Air. The program is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. Thank you for listening. I'm Don Marsh.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.